I call to order the May 19th, 2014 regular meeting of the Cincinnati Board of Education. We welcome everyone and request that everyone in the audience please silence, and down here as well, their cell phones and any other electronic devices. Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mrs. Witt, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Bates.
Present.
Mrs. Copeland-Dansby.
Present.
Mrs. Hoffman.
Here.
Mr. Coombs.
Here.
Mr. Manera.
Mr. Manera.
Here.
Mr. Nell.
Here.
President Bolton.
Here, thank you. Do board members have any questions about the May 14th Committee of the Whole report? Mrs. Bates, as chair of the Finance Committee, would you please present the May 15th Finance Committee meeting report?
Can I ask Ms. Copeland-Dansby to do that?
Certainly so. The Finance Committee met on Thursday, May 15th, and it was a pretty standard meeting. I presented as written.
Thank you very much. We need a voice vote to accept the committee reports as written. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. New business. And this is a big night in many different ways. And so it's going to be a rather large meeting of great celebration and great commemoration. And we appreciate all the ones that are here to help us share in these moments of remembrance. And also celebration of our next group of folks, and we are so thrilled to have them. This is what we look forward to every year. Tonight's presentations will begin with recognizing our 2013-2014 valedictorians and salutatorians. Mrs. Walsh, will you please provide us with the introduction, and then we'll have representatives from the various schools introduce our vals and sals.
That's good. I like that.
We have many distinguished visitors and speakers tonight, but I know all of the distinguished speakers and visitors, and I know they too know the most distinguished people here tonight are valedictorians and salutatorians as we celebrate their achievements. Ms. Walsh.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Tonight we shine the spotlight on the top scholars of Cincinnati Public Schools class of 2014, our 15 valedictorians and 17 salutatorians. I'm Janet Walsh, Director of Public Affairs, and I'm so glad that this year I'm going to have a lot of help pronouncing all those names. We honor the students for their hard work, perseverance, and stamina that it took to maintain top grades throughout their careers. Congratulations to all of you on this honor, and we're going to recognize each of you and give you a certificate acknowledging all your hard work and your accomplishment. Helping me will be the high school principals or their representatives. So we will first, when your name is called, please step forward. We will then have your principal say a little bit about you. Yes. Nothing like flexibility in schools. Our Aiken students are on their way, so we're going to defer them until a little bit later. So.
It's just here.
Aiken is in the building, and so is Aiken's principal, Lisa Vota. Lisa will come to the podium and talk a little bit about her valedictorian and salutatorian.
Good evening. I would like to introduce to you this evening Christopher Jordan, who is not able to make it this evening. He is our valedictorian. Christopher is the son of Star Poole and Reuben Jordan. Chris is a member of Moore, a GE Scholar, and a National Honor Society member. Chris will be interning this summer at General Electric. Chris will be attending Wright State in the fall, where he received a full ride. Chris will be majoring in computer engineering.
All right.
Aiken Salutatorian, Thomas Edward Houston, son of Misha Houston. Thomas is a member of the football and track team, as well as being a GE Scholar, a member of the leadership team, and the National Honor Society. Thomas will be attending Morehouse in Atlanta, where he received a scholarship valued at $100,000.
All right.
Thomas will be studying biomedical engineering.
Whew. All right.
This is Thomas.
Yeah, Mom, you should go down and take. Yeah. Yes, the mom. Yes, Mom needs to come down too.
That'll do it. Oh, here we go. Let's see. I hope it's not an awful picture. Oh, it's a cute one.
Next, I'd like to introduce Clark Montessori Principal John Spicer, who will introduce his students.
Thank you. It is my pleasure to introduce Elena Jordan Keller. Elena was accepted at the University of Chicago and the University of Cincinnati. She has decided to attend the DAP program at UC, and she will major in graphic communication design. Thank you.
She's going to take a picture.
Very good. Oh, let's talk about her again. So Elena will attend the DAP program at the University of Cincinnati, and she will major in graphic communication design. Congratulations. Next is Noah Wesley Chevalier. Noah was accepted at The Ohio State University and Centre College. He has decided to attend Centre College. He is undecided, but will play soccer at Centre. Noah.
Is there a representative from Dater High School here? Okay, Mr. Sippo gets a detention. It becomes my pleasure then to introduce Kaylin Gaines, valedictorian of Dater High School. If Kaylin is here, could she please step down? Kaylin, I'm going to put you on the spot. Can you tell? Okay. Mr. Badgett will come down to do the honors. You're off the spot right now. Plan C, Kaylin will introduce herself. Tell us a little bit about you and how you got this honor and where you plan to go to college.
I plan to attend the Ohio State University, major in accounting.
Good deal. Congratulations. Do you know if the other student at the salutatorian is here? Is Cody Franklin Waddell here? Cody was not able to make it, but let's have a hand for him. Next, it's my pleasure to introduce Jack Jose, who is principal of Gamble High School.
It's my pleasure to introduce tonight a couple of great Montessori students, and I'm proud to realize and recognize that they're siblings of Gamble graduates, which through 3 graduating classes is pretty impressive. Our valedictorian this year is Ronnie Utrecht. Ronnie's going to attend the University of Cincinnati DAP program and major in fashion design. We're so proud of you. Ronnie, raise your hand. And our salutatorian is Chastity Mitchell. Chastity will also be attending UC. She is currently undecided with regards to her major.
And as Chastity gets her picture taken, I would like to call Kathy Wright, who is the principal of Hughes High School. Do you have any?
Good evening. I'd like to introduce our valedictorian to you, Ms. Shantae Sanders. Shantae will be attending UC Blue Ash, and she will be staying in UC's Gen 1 house. She is a Choose Ohio First Scholarship winner, and she will be majoring in physical therapy. She's also a member of the National Honor Society and the president of the senior class. Our salutatorian is Miss Sarah Franklin. Sarah Franklin is a student in our Zoo Academy. She will be attending UC's main campus, where she will major in zoology and sports medicine. She has a full ride scholarship at UC. She's a member of our National Honor Society, where she is the vice president, and she was also the kicker for our football team. Sarah Franklin. There's one more. Mm-hmm. And our last student couldn't be here tonight. Her name is Lorinda Nelms. Lorinda is a young scholar, and she will be attending the Ohio State University on a full ride scholarship.
And during the photo session, I would like to invite Euler counselor Marcia McDonald Wheeler to introduce some of the great students at Euler High School.
Thank you. The 2 students that I'm going to introduce to you all tonight both started Euler in kindergarten. So we're very proud of them. They're survivors. And the first is our valedictorian, Joe Engel. Joe will be attending the University of Cincinnati, and he will also reside in the Gen 1 house. He will major in information technology. And Joel is the sports editor of the Euler Griffin, our school newspaper, and captain of the baseball team. Our salutatorian is Emily Offenbacher. Emily will be attending the University of Cincinnati in the fall, and she will also reside in the Gym 1 house. She will be majoring in psychology. Emily is the editor-in-chief of the Oiler Griffin, our school newspaper, and will write for UC's News Record this summer.
And I'd like to introduce the principal of our East Side K through 12 school, Charlene Meyer of Riverview East.
Thank you. And it's my pleasure to introduce Naomi Titus, who is going to UC Main campus. She has a 4-year scholarship to UC. She's majoring in early childhood education. And Board of Education, please keep her name in mind. She wants to be a school psychologist. So I hope to see her name in the board minutes. She has a fully paid internship in biomedical research. And she had the Cincinnati Police Department Scholarship and the Mamie Earl Searle Scholarship. So we're very proud of Naomi. Oh, sorry. Sorry. Next, it is my pleasure to introduce Jordan Cervasi. He is actually a twin who quite often, unfortunately, I get him confused sometimes, but this is in fact Jordan. And he is going to UC Blue Ash. He is undecided. When he was at Riverview, he was part of our Leadership Scholars Program, and also Great American Insurance does Toastmasters with our students, and he was one of the students chosen to be in Toastmasters. Congratulations, Jordan.
As Jordan gets his picture taken, I would like to call to the podium Principal of SCPA, Steve Brokamp.
Thank you. Good evening, and thank you for allowing us to honor our students in this way. Our valedictorian this year is Richard Lowenberg. Richard received SCPA's highest honor as a junior last year by winning the Corbett Mayerson Award. He had the lead role this year in Neil Simon's play, The Good Doctor. He will be attending New York University in the Tisch School for the Arts, majoring in drama. And Alyssa Thompson is our salutatorian. She is a member of SCPA's award-winning drama ensemble and has she's distinguished herself not only as an actor, but also as a photographer and a visual artist. She will be attending The Ohio State University in the honors program, and she will be focusing her attention on chemistry and theater.
Is Schroeder Principal Larry Williams or a representative here this evening? I don't believe so. So I will do the honors of introducing Peyton McCarter, the valedictorian. And if Peyton is with us, I would like Peyton to come in and introduce herself. Tell us a little bit about your aspirations, where you're going to college, and if you know it, your major.
My name is Peyton McCarter, and I attend Schroeder High School. I plan to major in pre-pharmacy at UC in the fall, and I am a member of the National Honor Society. And actually, the salutatorian is my best friend, and she couldn't be here tonight. Her name is Jocelyn Pennington, and she plans on going to Howard University to study in psychology.
I'll give you both. You can give your best friend. See, we didn't need him anyway. Now I'd like to introduce the principal of Taft Information Technology High School, Michael Turner.
Well, it's my pleasure to introduce our valedictorian and salutatorian. We have here Benjamin Stieritz, who is our valedictorian, and Benjamin has managed to go through all 4 years of high school with nothing lower than an A, so he's graduating with a 4.2903 grade point average. Ben has been involved in many different parts of the school, but an interesting thing about Ben is he received an internship job with Cincinnati Bell, our partner in education, between junior and senior year. And so they hired him on part-time after that internship, and he just got a promotion from junior product manager to product manager, which sounds pretty important to me. So that's a great tie-in with our Bell partnership. Ben is going to attend the University of Cincinnati, where he will become a computer engineer. So I'm proud to introduce Ben Stieritz. Sorry. And now I'd like to introduce Wesley Turner, and yes, it is the same last name, and yes, he is my son. But Wesley is graduating with a 4.1774 GPA. He served in many different parts of the school, a Taft ambassador. He is senior class president for Taft. He will be attending the University of Louisville. Even though we're UK fans in our house, he's going to U of L. I don't know how that's going to work, but we already have the flag that says a house divided, so we'll be okay. And I'm very proud of him, and he is going to major in marketing with a minor in international business. So I'm proud to introduce Wesley Turner.
Next, I'd like to introduce Walnut Hills Principal Jeff Brokamp.
Good evening. The top 10 students at Walnut Hills this year all had perfect GPAs. And what distinguishes the salutatorian versus valedictorian and the other 8 students down to 1 through 10 is the number of advanced placement courses that they got straight A's in. Actually, both the valedictorian and salutatorian got perfect grades in all their classes, including both of them 13 APs. The only difference being that Catherine stockpiled her APs up through her junior year, and John's taking one more than Catherine his senior year. So the way the GPA works, and these are our top 2 students. They've done a great job. Catherine is a member of our debate club and represented Walnut Hills in the Harvard Model United Nations trip that we took to Boston a couple years ago. She also is an elite level soccer player. She is still undecided between University of Chicago and University of Southern California. She'll double major in business and pre-medical sciences. And I also drove Catherine to school along with 4 other students in her grade for the first 3 years that they were at Walnut Hills. So if she's ever the president, I've got a lot of dirt on her. Catherine Cheng. John Simmerlink has been a member of the Inner Alliance organization, actually the president of Inner Alliance at Walnut Hills. He also is the founder of Christian Connections at Walnut Hills. Today was a very big day for John because for the last few months he's been planning and fundraising with a group of about 80 seniors at Walnut Hills on this day to surprise the custodians with that senior energy that we all know seniors have. John and his friends decided that they would take the brooms away from the custodians and do all the cleaning in the school during the day and at night and treat the custodians to a catered lunch and dinner. And John organized that. It beats putting picnic tables on the roof. John is planning to attend Ohio State University, where he's been accepted in the honors program, and he'll major in electrical engineering.
And now I'd like to introduce Western Hills High School Principal Ken Jump.
Good evening. I'd like to introduce our valedictorian, Jocelyn Smith. Jocelyn is the daughter of Bernice and Nicholas Gator. She is a resident of Westwood. Jocelyn is a member of the Western Breeze newspaper, the Daisy Chain, and the academic team. She's also been a member of our volleyball team for the past 4 years. Jocelyn has earned college credit this year in our dual enrollment program for English, and Jocelyn will attend the University of Akron next year to pursue a degree in social work. Jocelyn. I'd like to introduce our salutatorian, Taja LaFleur. Taja is the daughter of Melina LaFleur, a resident of Northside. She has a 3.8 GPA average and has been involved in activities at Western Hills High School. She's a member of our student ambassadors, the Boo Radley Society, Daisy Chain, and our school newspaper, the Western Breeze. She has earned college credit this year in both English and math through our dual enrollment program. Taja will attend Tennessee State University next year, majoring in mass communication, and she wants to pursue a career in broadcasting and also would like to be a motivating force for adolescents. Taja.
I'd like Withrow University Principal Paul Daniels to come to the podium, please, and introduce his outstanding students.
So I have the distinct pleasure this evening of doing 2 schools. We'll start this evening with the Withrow International Salutatorian, David Howard. So David, if you want to come up here next to me, please. Interesting fact about all 4 students is they have all taken part in the dual enrollment program at Withrow University High School. David is our salutatorian for Withrow International. He plans to attend the University of Cincinnati Blue Ash, where he will begin his major in mechanical engineering. David is also the recipient of an Academic Achievement Award for Gear Up and a member of the National Honor Society this year. Congratulations, David. The valedictorian this year for Withrow International is Nancy Guerin Sanchez. After graduation, Nancy will attend the Northern Kentucky University, where she will double major in both nursing and psychology. She has been offered over $80,000 in scholarship monies, including a full ride to NKU. Additionally, she was awarded President Obama's Gold Award for her community service over the last 3 years. Our salutatorian for Withrow University this year is Abriana Harris. Abriana will attend North Carolina A&T University this fall, where she plans to major in fashion design and merchandising with a minor in marketing. She has been offered a full ride scholarship there, including tuition, room and board, and a book stipend. Congratulations, Abriana. And last but not least, our 2014 valedictorian for Withrow University is Ebony Dothard. Ebony will attend Wright State University this fall, where she will study to become a nurse practitioner. Ebony has already earned to date 36 college credits through her participation in the dual enrollment program with Cincinnati State and her post-secondary option program with Xavier University. Congratulations, Ebony.
And now I'd like Woodward High School's representative. We're going to have the counselor of the school, James Loomis, do the honors.
Woodward Career Technical High School is pleased to recognize our valedictorian and salutatorian. Our valedictorian is Janelle Patrice James. Janelle's been involved in varsity athletics at Woodward. She's heavily involved in community service. She's the citywide president of the Jobs for Cincinnati graduates. She intends to become a mechanical engineer and work for Toyota Motors. To that end, she will be attending Eastern Michigan University, where she intends to major in mechanical engineering. Janelle Patrice James. Our salutatorian is a volunteer at the Hospice of Cincinnati. Her interest is in becoming a traveling nurse, and to that end, she is going to head north on Interstate 75 to Wright State University, where she will major in nursing. Vicki Lynn Lindsay.
And there you have it, our 2014 valedictorians and salutatorians. Let's give them all a huge round of applause. Before we let them go, I think we should also give a round of applause to all the parents and mentors and others. Will you please stand?
Stand up!
Thank you so much. If anyone wants to take a final group shot, have at it.
Wait, we got some parents coming down to get those pictures.
Short people, you know who you are.
They know very well who the short ones are.
Right here in the middle. You're not going to be in the picture. Move over.
We're okay. And now who's the theater director around here?
Somehow, you like those done over here somehow. You know you're trying to. You bring us
Nothing, that's it.
This is just a dress rehearsal for graduation night. Go down the aisle and get a picture of each of you getting your diploma, great tats again. Only the beginning.
Thank you.
All right, man. Thank you.
As we have a rather large exodus, we will set up for our final presentation tonight. And once again, we celebrate seniors and other students who have acclaimed and achieved great heights. And this, Great Heights at CATC, and our presentation is exciting as we kind of view and hear about the outstanding artwork that is being done at the Cincinnati Arts and Technology Center. And we're so thrilled to have the Executive Director, Clara Martin, here. And if anybody's missed along the way their final showing every year, you've missed a great opportunity to see wonderful art by great, talented artists. So we welcome Executive Director Clara Martin.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I see we've got some new people on the board, so for your benefit, I want to kind of bring you up to speed on who we are and what we do. We're a 501c3 organization that serves Cincinnati public high school students, giving them credit in fine arts and electives. Our goal is to prepare them for not only graduation, but for life after high school. We have 5 studio art courses. We give them additional services, college access, mental health services, and workforce development. We see about 400 students per year, and our population reflects the population of Cincinnati Public Schools. I'm here tonight to share with you a very unique experience that we had the pleasure of being a part of last summer. We are part of the National Center for Arts and Technology, which was founded by Bill Strickland, social entrepreneur who developed Manchester Bidwell. And they came to us and offered us to go to Yellowstone National Park and take 10 of our students for an experiential learning opportunity. I want to say that the pictures that you're going to see are actually photos from the journey. And many of them are photos that were taken by our students, because not only was it an outdoor adventure, we embedded arts integration into the experience as well. The building blocks of that particular event were leadership, development of communication, perseverance, passion, and stewardship. But at CATS, we feel it's really important that we prepare our young people for the future. And part of that preparation is learning to face challenges. So we wrapped the expedition to Yellowstone in a model that was created by Joseph Campbell called The Hero's Journey. Now, Joseph Campbell is an orator, professor, and writer, and he wrote a couple books, one called A Hero with a Thousand Faces, and the other called The Hero's Journey. Mr. Campbell proposes that life is a series of challenges from which you grow. Everybody is on a journey to become their own hero, and you alone are the first actor in your life. Now, he has said that this journey has 10 steps, and if you master the journey, you will master succeeding with challenges. So we tried to teach our young people how to master a challenge through the steps of the hero's journey with the Yellowstone trip. The first step that Joseph Campbell talks about is the call. And for our young people, they were going about their everyday life, attending Cincinnati Public Schools and coming to CATS, and we confronted them with the opportunity to take a free week-long trip to Bozeman, Montana, to live in a log cabin for a week and enjoy wildlife and the geothermic features. And you can see there is a Enquirer article that was done on the trip. The second step that Campbell outlines is that when you're confronted with a new opportunity or a challenge, there is always fear, doubt, and refusal. And many of our young people were afraid to go on this trip. They cited things like, I'm afraid to ride on a plane. I've never left my community. I don't want to leave my mother. Do I get to take my cell phone? And so some of them did not get to go, but we selected 10, 7 females and 3 males. The other thing that Joseph Campbell says is that when you're confronted by a challenge, it's very important to know your mentors. So these are the mentors that went on the trip with those 10 young people. Of course, there were the CAT staff, myself, and 2 other staff members. There was a outdoor life experience coach from Yellowstone, and then there was a nutritionist and a fitness expert from Park Journeys who was responsible for coordination of the trip. Campbell says that when you're confronted with a challenge, you need to gather allies. And we did those exercises at the front end of the trip with 6 pre-trips designed to prepare our young people to go on this journey. One of the things we did was we brought in REI to teach them about the importance of gear, because we were going to take quite a few hikes and we were going to be out in the wilderness, and they needed to know all that was needed in order for them to be safe. We also enlisted the aid of Thane Maynard, and Thane Maynard spent a morning with us teaching us all about the animals that we were going to see at the Yellowstone trip. We also learned about what we call shapeshifters. These are people who look like something they aren't. Sometimes they look like friends and they're really enemies. Sometimes they look like enemies and they're really friends. And then, of course, the opportunity to identify your enemies. And Thane Maynard was critical in helping us identify one of the enemies in the land at Yellowstone, and that's the buffalo. And as you can see, we had our kids went out on several days, and we got to see wildlife and geothermal features. There were a number of challenges that we confronted, and Joseph Campbell says that when you start off with a challenge, they start off fairly easy and they progress to more difficult. One of the challenges we put before the kids was to meet strangers in the park and go up and talk to them. And so this photo here is 2 young men who were given a red sticker, and they were asked to go up and give this sticker to somebody in the park. And so they did. And the victory for that day was when that family drove out of the park, they had the sticker on the back of their SUV. If we don't face challenge, Joseph Campbell says that we fail to grow. A couple other challenges that we had, you'll see the egg that is on my right. That's a 15-pound egg that we used as a team weight. And we carried that egg up Bunsen Peak, which is about 8,500 feet. And the kids took turns carrying the egg. As each of them got tired, they passed it to somebody else. We cooked. The kids were responsible for KP duty. They were given recipes that they had to follow. They had to prepare lunches. They had to bag the breakfasts. And so they had to learn to work together in a team. And then Joseph Campbell talks about the supreme ordeal. Well, our supreme ordeal, or the biggest challenge of the whole event for us, was climbing that 8,500-foot mountain. And it was called Bunsen Peak. We had prepared for it for the full 4 days and 3 weeks before. And so those are pictures of the kids just at the foot of that mountain. And the picture on the right is us trucking back down that huge mountain. Step number 8 is the transformation or revelation. And that's when you've conquered your fears and you're a better version of yourself. These are pictures of us at the summit, at the top of the mountain, and the kids who thought they couldn't were elated that they had actually accomplished the goal. Step number 9 is the atonement. And that's where you become very comfortable with the new self that you've become as a result of facing that challenge and meeting the experience. And so once we got to the top of the mountain, we sat down, we had lunch, we shared stories, and we gave out awards to those who accomplished it. And then the final step that Joseph Campbell talks about is returning with the elixir. And this is coming back to your community, a better version of yourself, and giving back to the community. And so our young people got to do that. Those 10 kids, when they returned, they taught the hero's journey to a group of students from UC, master level social work students who are about to embark on a trip to Nicaragua. So they spent an afternoon teaching them the hero's journey so that they could see their trip in the same ways that we saw ours. We had such a great time on the trip, and we had so many wonderful outcomes with our young people. We've decided to pilot a new program this summer, and it's called Going All Out. It is kind of a replicate of the Yellowstone experience. It's beginning this summer on June 2nd. We will be taking a group of up to 16 kids to Camp Joy, and we will start with outdoor activities, and we will have arts integration. And again, we'll be teaching how to face challenge through the work of Joseph Campbell. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Any board members have any comments or questions about this great experience and about CATS? I think Member Coons has a comment.
Yeah. As a former summer camp counselor who's brought about 20 kids up the top of a tall mountain, I appreciate what you're doing, especially with the population that you're doing it with. It's rare that we see occasions that our urban youth are brought into the natural world and exposed to wildlife and challenges like climbing a mountain and knowing who your enemies and things are like that. So I'm incredibly impressed with what you've done, and I just want to say a big thank you.
Well, thank you.
Other comments or questions? I want to thank you for being here this evening, and thanks for this wonderful opportunity to share with you this great program, and particularly also want to thank the members of your board, the people that helped create CATS, particularly Lee Carter and all those folks that have made this a great opportunity for our students. It's those kinds of partnerships that make us such a special district and a special city.
Just so you know, we're going to be moving the Yellowstone exhibition, which is a series of 17 pictures that were taken by students, to the superintendent's hallway on May 30th. So I hope you get a chance to look at it. Thank you.
We'll just find it phenomenal. Thank you so much, Ms. Martin. Appreciate it. Mr. Nelms, would you please present your kudos?
Yes, I will. President Bowden. My kudos tonight includes a trifecta, which is our board president, Eve Bowden, Superintendent Mary Ronan, and Cincinnati Federations of Teachers President Julie Sellers for being featured in Lead Cincinnati Magazine under the article, It Takes a Village, Collaboration in Cincinnati Public Schools. Each individual talked about the district's history of collaboration and the success of many of its collaborative agreements. The common thread among the three is that their commitment and knowledge about how to use collaboration to acquire important resources to improve the education and lives of CPS students. Thank you for what you do to promote Cincinnati Public Schools, President Bowden, Superintendent Ronan, and CFT President Sellers. Thank you, and kudos to you. Are there any other kudos?
Mrs. Bates, would you please present the retirement? It's not quite as lengthy as last week, but
No, but there's a few.
There's a few.
We have 3 teachers that are retiring that we're honoring tonight. Joan Elise Andres Serrer from AMI, Mariah Jose Mira Galvin from AMI, and Loretta Cummings Simpson from Aiken High School. From our civil service personnel ranks, we have Karen Colbrandt, Bertie Martin, and Dolores Owens, and we wish them well after their long service to our children.
Thank you, Mrs. Bates. We've now entered the portion of our meeting where we are hearing the public, and tonight we have one person in that session, and then we'll be moving to our resolutions when we will be hearing from some other folks as well. Diane Williams, would you please come on down and share with us your issues or concerns or suggestions?
Good evening.
Good evening.
To all of the CPS board members, we're grateful and privileged again to speak with you and before you. And I'm here this evening for two reasons. And the first reason is because we were asked to just kind of keep you abreast of some of the things that we are seeing at Gamble Montessori. And we want to thank you for all of your help, all of the things that you have been able to help us with at Gamble Montessori, and to kind of give you this progress report. One, that we have been able to have carpet donated to our school, and we wanted to say thank you for your help to bind those carpet remnants. We're grateful for you doing that. And the parents were also told that the district donated some planters to our school, and they were delivered, and we're excited to report that those planters are now full of flowers and helping to improve the look of our school campus. We're just grateful for your help, for your generosity, and it may seem like a small thing, but to us it's a great thing. And the second reason that I am here is because I had the opportunity to complete a survey that was sent to me that included questions about your 5 strategic academic priorities. And I do believe one of those priorities was college resource and readiness. And so at Gamble, we're facing the possibility that we could lose our college resource and readiness staff person. And so many parents feel like she is just paramount, critical even, to preparing our students and making them college ready. And so grant funding for her position is pending. And Mr. Jose is doing everything that he can do, but it's still uncertain whether this funding will be available. And so we'd like to retain her. That's our heart about it. And if you are able to help us, again, we would be grateful, but we did want to put that in your hearing. So thank you again for your help and for all of the improvements that we are seeing at Gamble Montessori.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate it.
It's refreshing to get a positive response.
The next portion are resolutions, and we have a number of resolutions tonight, again, in remembrance and commemoration. And our first will be a resolution memorializing former board member and board president Florence Newell. Mrs. Bates will be presenting that resolution, and as we have the resolution presented, if it would be okay, we would like former board members Ingram and Russell, and also, if possible, Florence's husband, John, to just come down to the podium, if you would. I'm not sure where John is.
Yeah, he's here. There he is.
And who else
Is there another family member?
Yeah, it looks like it. Do you know?
I don't know. I can't see him.
We have another family member, perhaps? Yeah. Okay. Well, welcome to you too, sir. Mrs. Bates, as you're the person who served with President Newell, I would like you, if you would please, to read the resolution.
I'd be honored to do so. This is a resolution memorializing former board member Florence M. Newell. Whereas on April 11th, 2014, Florence M. Newell, with Doctor of Education, a former Cincinnati Public Schools Board of Education member and board president, passed away at 70 years of age. And whereas Dr. Newell was born in Connersville, Indiana on September the 8th, 1943, and received her bachelor's, master's, and doctoral degree in education from the University of Cincinnati. And whereas Florence began her career in education and service to the children of Cincinnati as an elementary school teacher, and after many years ended her career retiring from her alma mater as an associate professor emeritus. And whereas in November 1999, Dr. Newell was elected to the Cincinnati Board of Education, serving a total of 8 years from 2000 to 2007. And whereas during Dr. Newell's 2 terms, she served on the Facilities Committee, whose major task was to implement the 10-year, $1 billion Facilities Master Plan and the rebuilding and renovation of the Cincinnati Public Schools facilities with first-class school buildings and community learning centers designed for the 21st century learning. And whereas Dr. Newell was a community leader on the Roselawn Community Planning for Student Success Committee and chair of the Hayes Elementary Local School Decision-Making Committee, and whereas the Cincinnati Public School District recognizes Dr. Newell's invaluable contributions to the education of the children of Cincinnati and 8 years of dedicated service as an elected member of the Cincinnati Board of Education, and therefore be it resolved that on May the 19th, 2014, the Cincinnati Board of Education expresses its deepest sympathy to the members of the Newell family for their great loss, and remembers Florence Margaret Newell for her commitment to effective teaching and for the passion and dedication she provided for our community under her years of service to the Cincinnati Public Schools. I present this resolution as printed for adoption.
Second.
Thank you. We have a resolution introduction and a second. We'll have the roll call.
Mrs. Bates?
Aye.
Mrs. Copeland Dansby?
Aye.
Mrs. Hoffman?
Aye.
Mr. Coons?
Aye.
Mr. Manera?
Aye.
Mr. Nelms?
Aye.
President Bolton?
Aye. At this time, we want to thank you all for being here, and we'd love to hear any comments that you might. We do have a resolution mounted plaque, if you would, that will go to the family in this coming week. But John, if you'd like to say a few words, and any of our other guests that are here.
I was going to say just thank you for thinking of my wife. And I was going to ask you, could I get a copy of that resolution so you would answer that for me?
Okay. Thank you. Ms. Russell? Other family members? Ms. Ingram?
No, I said I wasn't coming back till I'm raising hell.
Cincinnati Board of Education, my name is Johnny Walker, and I'm a community leader, retired from the Thriftway Supermarket. Dr. Florence Newell, my friend John Newell, have been like family to me, and then I know they love me and they love children, and we're going to miss her, but God knows she's done a wonderful job for children, and have a nice day.
Okay. She was wonderful.
Ms. Russell?
Thank you very much.
Can you hold on?
Come back.
John,
Come back.
Harriet, can you hold on a moment?
Come back.
There might be some comments from a few board members that you need to entertain.
I'll start. I got a brief one. I had the pleasure of working alongside Dr. Newell at Cincinnati State College in 2011. One day she appeared in the cubicle next to mine, and it was right as I was starting to run for this office. And so I was pleased to be able to get some words of wisdom from her. And like you see in this picture, she had a lot of pride about her work on the Cincinnati Public School Board. I remember her telling me about the levy that they passed and how, you know, you could just see her glowing, remembering that work, which I know as a current board member would be very near impossible to get a levy of that magnitude passed today. So I know that Dr. Newell did some great work on this board and in the community, a broader community as well. So I appreciated my time with her, and we are sorry for your loss, but she'll be remembered.
Man, that was a good comment you made there, because the CBC was against us, and she called them all out. Yeah, she called them all out. And the Baptist Minister Conference was against us also for that. Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up.
Well, yeah, I'd like to say a few words. Dr. Newell was such a straight shooter. You always knew exactly where Florence stood on every single issue. And whether she agreed with you or not, she let you know that too. But that was what I really, really appreciated. One of the many things I appreciated about Dr. Newell. Everything she did, she always did for the children. Always, always. And one vote in particular, I mean, how many votes did we have in 8 years, especially with the facilities master plan? But there was a vote, Harriet remembers this and Kathy too, but this really struck me about expanding Euler. It was a vote to expand Euler to grade 12 when it was not planned to be a school, a pre-K to 12 school. And it was a very tight vote. We couldn't afford it. The administration said there's no way. It was split down the middle. I believe it was 4-3 in favor. And she came up to, and I did. I struggled with it because I really try to listen to the administration. You know I do. And went with the majority. And she came up, and I felt her that entire time that I was deliberating, and thanked me for doing what was right for the children. And that was her legacy to the board, doing what was right for the children, always, always.
Yeah, first of all, I want to say, John, thank you for lending your wife to Cincinnati Public School and its children all that time. And not only that, I want to thank her friends, and thank you for allowing me to be a pallbearer. I didn't expect it, but I was honored that you did. And when I was coming on the board and your wife was going off the board, Dr. Newell would pull me to the side, give me some insight, give me some advice. And I remember one particular time she called me on the phone, and then you got on the phone and you shared with me how I needed to not only represent for the causes that was important, but also I need to look the part. And I knew you was coming tonight, so I wanted to make sure that I looked the part. So I just want to say, you know, my condolences for your loss. She'll be missed. Kathy, thank you for your friendship, and you, Harriet, what I saw at the services was how endearing she was to you two. And it's hard to call everybody your friend, but I know that when you two spoke, you truly and sincerely meant that that's what she was. And I want to say I appreciate that. Thank you.
Carolyn and Sue are up there hiding in the...
They're hiding.
Oh.
I saw when they come in the same time I did. But I'm glad you mentioned what you mentioned, because now Melanie, when she mentioned about one of the votes about the school down there, if she hadn't been on that board, Taft High School would have been history. I'm going to say it again. If she hadn't been on that board, the school I graduated from, it would have been history, because they was thinking about getting rid of Taft High School. Yeah.
But thank you.
No, I'm talking about, but she fought and made it stick, and they had to keep it down there. And when they built the new East End, she said, "Oh, that's good, because they're gonna build a new Taft."
Okay.
Yeah. See, you know, that's
Thank
exactly
you
what
for that
happened.
Thank you for that history.
Well, I just want to say that I think everybody recognizes that Florence was truly here for the children of this district and their families. And that's exactly why we hope everyone is here in each of these meetings, whether they're sitting as a member of the board or the administration or the staff or the community. It is important to realize that Florence truly stood for doing what was best for the students of the district. So.
Thank you. If you all would join us up here so that the whole board can have a picture with you.
We're going to get a copy of this?
Yes, you are. You're going to get a copy. This way it'll be better. I don't know. I have to slow down.
Melody's way back there.
She's coming.
He was in the front.
Come up front. Come on, guys. Yeah, all of you up front. Let's do it. You come up front. There we go. You're bad. Mr. Manera, would you please present the resolution for board consideration?
It would be my pleasure to present the following resolution. And I think we all have parts in this because it's a very important resolution as a board. And this is a resolution revising the Cincinnati Board of Education's vision, mission, and strategic goals. Whereas the Cincinnati Board of Education is steadfast in its duty to develop educational programs that can transform lives and communities, and
whereas the Cincinnati Board of Education revised its vision, mission, and strategic goals over the last 3 months, and whereas the vision of the Cincinnati Board of Education is that Cincinnati Public Schools will be a community that ensures equitable access to a world-class education, unleashing the potential of every student, and
whereas the mission, if you decide to accept, of the Cincinnati Board of Education reads, we educate all students with rigor and care in a culture of excellence to develop engaged citizens who are prepared for life, and
whereas the Cincinnati Public Schools pursues a culture of excellence by the following strategic goals of the Cincinnati Board of Education. Great communities. Cultivate a robust and inclusive network of engaged parents, community, and other stakeholders that work to build safe, vibrant schools at the center of safe, vibrant communities.
Great learning environments. Support the creation of highly engaging learning environments in which every child, every school, every day engages in an ideal balance between rigorous learning opportunities relevant to our dynamic world, and at the same time enjoys the focus, concern of caring adults. Great systems. Ensure that all operations and resources of every type are equitably distributed and singularly and systematically focused on high academic achievement for all students.
Great learning choices. Provide for expanding learning opportunities and choices for all students that reflect a shared concern for the whole child and demonstrate appreciation for every student as a unique individual. Great people. Enable the recruitment, growth, and advancement of distinguished professionals committed to serving diverse students with a high regard for equity and in a manner characterized by rigor, innovation, and accountability.
Now therefore be it resolved that the Cincinnati Board of Education envisions continued growth for all students of the Cincinnati Public School District, and be it finally resolved that the Cincinnati Board of Education adopts the revised vision statement, mission statement, and strategic goals developed at the March 28th, 2014 board retreat. We have a resolution introduced. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any comments or questions? Mr. Coons.
I want to give a big thank you to the folks that helped us in this process. Greg Landsman got us started, and Dr. Darwish saw us through to the finish line. So I want to thank them for herding the cats, as they say.
Thank you very much. Any other questions or comments? This will set our course. It's great that this has happened prior to the adoption of the next year's budget. And it's great to have this as the guidepost. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Bates.
Aye.
Mrs. Copeland Dansby.
Aye.
Mrs. Hoffman.
Aye.
Mr. Coons.
Aye.
Mr. Manera.
Aye.
Mr. Nelms.
Aye.
President Bolton.
Aye. And now on this momentous anniversary, 60th anniversary, we will be, as many school districts and school boards throughout the country, commemorating this date and this time with the passage of a resolution that we will be introducing. We will first have the introduction and a second, and then part of our discussion will be a presentation and speeches by 4 very distinguished folks that will be calling up to the podium to help us make this decision regarding the vote and finding a way to commemorate this momentous event. I believe, Mr. Nelms, would you please present the resolution for board consideration?
I'm honored to do so. I have a resolution commemorating the Brown versus Board of Education 60th anniversary. Whereas 2014 marks the 60th anniversary of the historic U.S. Supreme Court decision in Brown versus Board of Education, and
Whereas public education is essential to an informed citizenry, the foundation of our democratic society, and whereas access to a public education is the gateway to opportunity, our nation's promise to all, and
whereas a public education for every citizen, regardless of race, religion, ethnic background, or economic circumstance, is a fundamental civil right under our form of government. And whereas on May 17, 1954, in a historic and unanimous decision, the U.S. Supreme Court in Brown v. Board of Education ruled that public education is subject to the equal protection provisions of the United States Constitution, and
whereas the court's pronouncement validated the struggle and remarkable actions of countless Americans, including civil rights leaders and volunteers, parents, and students, who challenged the destructive efforts of segregation through peaceful, lawful means. And
whereas the court's decision has had a profound, significant, and beneficial impact on all aspects of life in the United States, and
now therefore be it resolved that the Cincinnati Public School Board of Education on this 19th day of 2014 commemorates the 60th anniversary of the Brown versus Board of Education case, and with the resolution encourages the advancement of democratic principles through our system of law and justice using the 1954 Supreme Court decision as a touchstone, and
be it further resolved to inspire all of our students, regardless of age, gender, race, ethnicity, religion, sexual orientation, disability, or economic status, to appreciate the value of public education and public service as a way to promote democracy, justice, and equality. We have the resolution introduced by Vice President Nelms. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second from Mrs. Bates. And as part of our discussion, while we all have things we'd like to say, would the 4 or so very distinguished guests please come to our podium, and if you would, President Sellers, President of the CFT, Marvin Lee, also proclamation for Brown versus the Board of Education with Vice Mayor David Mann, and the most distinguished Reverend Damon Lynch. Please join us. And far be it from me as to figure out the order of the 4 distinguished folks that are approaching, so please feel free to do that yourself. And thank you so much for being here to help this discussion.
All right.
Vice Mayor David Mann.
Good evening.
good evening.
I didn't know till just now that I was going to be first, but I'm pleased to be first. This has been a fascinating meeting, and I think I'll come back more often. It's
all right.
Much more significant and interesting than the average council meeting. So.
Spread the word.
No comment.
Oh, maybe we shouldn't spread the word then.
I do have a proclamation from Mayor Cranley, who sends his best wishes. I have one advantage that I vividly remember 1954. And in fact, as some of you may know, I grew up in northern Kentucky, which at that time had lawfully segregated schools. And the headline says that the decision grants time to comply. And the time to comply was not completed in Kentucky until after I graduated from high school. But it was a part of what I grew up with. Segregated movie theaters, segregated train stations. I have vivid memories of taking a train from Covington to Horse Cave, the old home place down in Kentucky. And the station had a black waiting room, a white waiting room. And as the train, which came from Chicago on its way to New Orleans, crossed the river, there was a rearrangement of seating in the train so that as we went south from Covington, white citizens and African American citizens were in different parts of the train. You would want to say that this decision and all that followed leads us into the 60s, civil rights legislation, voting rights legislation, and all the rest. And I think what this is about today is pausing for a moment, recommitting ourselves to the goals that were implicit in Brown versus Board of Education, because we haven't achieved them. And you know better than I that there are differences between schools which have less to do with race these days than with economic station. And until those differences do not impact our schools, we have not achieved what needs to be achieved. So it's in that spirit that I'm very proud on behalf of the mayor to present a proclamation which formally proclaims this as Brown versus Board of Education Month in Cincinnati. May we all dedicate ourselves. So, and I'm going to present this to you.
Most Reverend.
Mr. President, God bless all of you, and to members of the board and to all who are present. It was the best of times and worst of times back in 1954. I was a sophomore in high school at the Lachlan Wayne High School in Lachlan, West Lachlan. The white school was in East Lachlan. There were 3 schools that were segregated during that time: Lachlan Wayne, the poorest downtown, the Catholic school, all boys, black. Covington, Grant over in Kentucky. Our schools are no longer around. My grandkids never got a chance to know where I went to school. Of course, the building is still there, but I could not take them through the halls and let them know where Granddad went, because our school was taken away because of the Warren Court, which was a great court, did a great thing, 9-0 vote. I doubt if the Roberts Court would have ever done anything that decisive. We've watched the Roberts Court, and the Roberts Court could never come to that kind of agreement. It needs to, but it won't. Sad to say that the 54 vote, although we thought it would be successful, has been an abysmal failure, because not only has there not been any meaningful desegregation or real desegregation, it has been resegregation. Resegregation. This country is more school resegregated than it was in 1954. We were glad because, as I said, it was the best of times for us as little black boys and girls running up down the streets of Lincoln Heights, the best place in the world to be raised, the most idyllic place in the world to be raised. We had no idea that we were poor until somebody came along in 1956 and told us that we were. We weren't raised to be taught that we were poor and that we did not have. We always knew that we were somebody because that's what our mothers and fathers and the people in the neighborhood instilled in us. There were no such thing as mentors in my day. The word suicide was not in our nomenclature. I didn't know what suicide was until I was good and grown. I never heard of the word mentor until I was good and grown, because what people call mentors today, we had it, it was already built into the neighborhood. It was called daddies, uncles, big brothers, teachers, Boy Scout, Cub Scout leaders, deacons of churches, pastors. They weren't mentors, they were real people, real men that we related to. And so as I look back over those 60 odd years, I have not seen any meaningful integration. It was ironic today when I thought about what is our great moral crisis in our nation. Everybody's looking at so many other things, but the greatest moral crisis that we're suffering today is what we're doing to our children. This is the biggest moral issue that we face today. School boards, I applaud you. You're a good board. Sister Hoffman and I have become fast friends. All the rest of you I've known across the years. Eve, you and I have fought these battles before. Kathy's sitting back here, and those who just left. And your strategic plan is very good, the way you presented it, like Mission Impossible. You know, all you need is a little jingle, and you would have had a good thing going here tonight. And I'm hoping that your strategic plan works, but we've been down this road before. And as I look today in the USA Today, and I see where evangelicals have faith in education, duh. I remember the days when we were out here and I was president of the Baptist Ministers Conference, and we were fighting to get inside so we could help the children. But we were always rebuffed with that crazy crap about church and state. And they were constantly always calling us to come and do the dirty, down and dirty work. Do the dirty work, riding up and down the street with helmets on and helping the boys out, and doing all that stuff. But yet we could never receive any resources to do the work because we were always told, now, Reverend Lynch, we remember faith and state, or church and state, separation. That was a ruse. That was a trick. But the evangelicals now, mainly white evangelicals, who now all of a sudden have a pain of consciousness that they want to really now do something. When during that time, we prevailed on them. They would always tell me, Damon, I would go with you, but I can't go with you on that. But I said, I just went with you on acid rain. How come you can't go with me on the school? Well, Damon, we can't go there because it's a separation of church and state. The Constitution, they always led that to us. And these were church folk. But now, full circle, 60 years later, right here on the front page of the largest newspaper in the country, evangelicals have faith in education. Churches help public schools without crossing the line on proselyting. We never proselytized, but we came into the schools and helped you out. But now, Detroit, Portland, Oregon, everybody's doing some things. I would lead you to this article in today's USA Today if you have not already read it. And maybe you might be able to add some components to your strategic plan. And so as I get ready to take my seat, the church is mainly responsible, instead of doing what they should have been doing in the neighborhoods, they left the neighborhood to fend for itself. And as a result, you had pockets of neighborhoods who could not deal with it, while the church went out and they said, well, we want our children to have a good education, so we're leaving the public school system. They left you. They left you to go out, cut down trees, because there was a time from GE all the way to Dayton, there was nothing but pasture. You could take your children riding on Sundays and see animals. You didn't have to go to the zoo. But they said, let's go out. And because we want our kids to have a good education, running from black kids, running from black poor neighborhoods. And they went out, they cut down trees, and they built communities called suburbia. And they went, and as they went, the resources went with them. And then every now and then they'd come back with a few dips and dabs and call it mission. And now they're coming back in mass to try to say we need to help these schools because this is a moral disgrace on America, the richest country in the world. And 50% of Cincinnati's children live in poverty, and poverty equates to the lack of education. If somebody is educated, they can live a meaningful, robust life. Non-educated, they can't do it. They can't do it. So I'm calling upon all of you to check these articles out and for the church to get busy like it used to be so we can go in and try to eradicate some of these things that are so prevalent because we keep doing the same thing and we wind up in the same place. I went to school, and when I was in the 3rd grade, everybody in class could read. Everybody could read. Everybody could read. Even the dumbest kid in class could read. I can't understand now. We got a whole lot of stuff about 3rd grade. She came out to my church and I gave her the something to do. She did it. She provided me with a resource officer here in this, where you guys are. The resource officer came, and now I got all of my kids now, 3rd grade, getting ready to do all this stuff. Kudos to her and to a whole lot of more people that's in here, Marcia Futel and all of you who have, I mean, it's just crazy. I could read, write, compute, do all kinds of stuff in the 3rd grade. And none of my kids, and I will make sure that none of them, I'm talking about my church kids, will not be able to read by 3rd grade. Because you're here, you have the resources, so let's get the resources out to where they need to be gotten out. The church stands ready to do what it always has done, the black church that is to receive whatever you got and get rid of this church-state stuff, because all it is a joke. It was a way to separate and keep things the way they always wanted it. That's it. I know I've overspent my time, but I got a passion. You had no business asking me to come. Yeah. And I want to say I enjoyed the Joseph Campbell piece, and when I look at Lincoln Heights now, it's just full circle. The place where I grew up, the most idyllic place to grow up in the history of Cincinnati. 1 square mile from Shepherd Lane to Perry. Everybody was on the spot. And now they have to talk about closing the school. The white kids, we have a brand new school in Lincoln Heights, but they don't bus the white kids to that school, but they'll take people from Lincoln Heights or wherever else and bus them all over town. Some of the worst riots and one of the worst hits I ever had in my life up in Boston. I'm up there marching and dealing with Board of Educations and busing and all of that, and got hit in the head by a hoof of a horse from a policeman and had a concussion in Boston, Mass, because people did not want it. And when they didn't want it, they figured out a way. They couldn't buck the law, but they figured out a way to get around it. Let's tear down trees. Let's build way out yonder and call it suburbia. Lakota 2, Lakota 3, Lakota 7, Lakota 8, and leave the black kids down here. And if they get it, fine. They can't follow us. And I sit down. One of the richest men who ever lived in this country is one of my best friends. He's now dead and gone. And I'm not going to call his name. And he said to me, Damon, I've made a mistake. I said, what'd you do? He said, well, the people told me that they wanted a better education than the public school was giving. And I fell for it. I said, well, what happened? He said, well, I built this school, acres and acres and acres. He said, now, when I looked around, there were no blacks. Mm-hmm. And he said, I feel so bad. He said, the school is full of white people. I don't even have any blacks. And I didn't know that was going to happen. He started to cry. I said, well, wait a minute. He said, Damon, if you could help me get some black kids in my school, I'll scholarship them. I'll pay for them free because it doesn't look right. We left the public school because we wanted a better education, but none of the black kids are out here. They deserve a good education too. If you can find me some black kids, I'll scholarship them. I'm not going to call his name, but he did that. Let that be a lesson that we need to keep on going the way we're going. Some of you are career educators, and you know what I'm talking about is true. And I just want you to know that we're praying for you. And I'm getting old, but there are a lot of young preachers out here who are willing to take the helm and run with it if you just go and ask them. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend. We have Marvin Lee and President Julie Sellers.
We have one student here. He is a senior at Gamble High School, and his name is Marvin Lee, and I wanted to introduce you because everyone else I think you've known, but I wanted to introduce you to Marvin.
Thank you, President Sellers.
All right. My name is Marvin Lee, and I'm a high school senior at James N. Gamble Montessori, and I will be graduating 5 days from now. Okay. 1954 is a simple number. 1954 is a simple year. But that year marks a landmark for all citizens that will call themselves American. In 1954, the United States of America took a step toward the ever-changing state of being that we would call tomorrow. Tomorrow is a future that everyone can live in comfortably. It may always be out of arm's reach, but the simple pursuit of such a goal is honorable and brave in itself. In 1954, America went to court with itself, with its morals, with its people, and it came to the unanimous conclusion that segregation hinders equality. And I know that that decision, that separate is not equal, has made a huge impact on how my life is shaped today. It's been 60 years since segregation ended, and within that time, we as a nation have grown so diverse that even the head of the country himself is diverse. This more than likely would have never been possible in a separate but equal world. To quote our President Barack Obama, Brown versus Board of Education shifted the legal and moral compass of our nation. Now that shift is one of the greatest accomplishments that this nation's ever seen. But that's not to say that racism or segregation doesn't exist anymore. It still exists, but the severity has been deeply diminished, and a path for everyone in all walks of life has been paved. And although the vision behind Brown versus Board of Education hasn't completely come to action in this day and age, the progress that we have made as a country, as people, is a statement that we can make the dream flourish into what the original visionaries sought to accomplish. We are on our way to tomorrow.
President Sellers.
Good evening, members of the board, Superintendent Ronan, Treasurer Witt, and members of the audience. CFT and CFOP Local 1520 is here this evening to commemorate and reaffirm the 60th anniversary of Brown versus the Board of Education. 60 years after Thurgood Marshall successfully argued to end the legal basis for school segregation in America, students of color still lag behind in education and in income. 60 years later, where is the promise of justice in the landmark Brown versus the Board of Education decision? Despite the fact that Brown versus the Board became law of the land in 1954, it wasn't until many years later that most American schools began to integrate. When they did, the benefits were clear. One national study found that integration led to a 25% fall in African American dropout rates in the 1970s. Another, more comprehensive study in 2011 examined desegregation of students of the civil rights era and found that it led to higher earnings, better health, and better prospects in life. Research also shows that all students in integrated schools do better academically, both majority and minority students. But despite the proven benefits of integration, this nation has retreated in recent years to pre-Brown conditions. What has happened over the past 20 years is a slow but steady increase in the isolation of African American and Hispanic students. But this is not just an issue of race. It is also a double segregation of race and poverty. This double segregation has coincidentally been the same time that we have also lost density of the middle-class jobs. What we actually need to address nationally is the loss of jobs and the increase of poverty. Public school teachers remain those who are committed to educating and nurturing all students. They're the ones who are willing to go above and beyond to get the job done. The odds are against public schools as the income disparity in our nation grows. Today, the #1 predictor of a student's academic achievement is not race, but family income. In fact, the achievement gaps between low income and high income are wider than those between racial groups. I find it unacceptable that the richest nation in the world is not addressing the issues that are impacting the children in America. If you look at what has happened in Ohio, you can see that every county has had record numbers of increases in child poverty. In Hamilton County alone, we have increased our number of children living in poverty from 15.2% in 2000 to 29.9% in 2012. And actually, in the city of Cincinnati, it's over 50%. We are second in the nation for childhood poverty. This is unacceptable for our children. As we move forward, we must continue to address these issues so that every child has an opportunity to live a fulfilling life no matter what zip code they were raised in. And I also brought for you this evening is a map of the children in poverty for Ohio. And it shows that Ohio is moving in the wrong direction, especially here in Hamilton County. Nearly 1 in 4 children in the United States lives in poverty. The stark changes in many states between 2000 and 2012 illustrated the widening income gap, which reduces socioeconomic growth
jeopardizes socioeconomic mobility, and increases demand for high-quality public services. This affects all aspects of a person's life, and it is a difficult cycle to break. Reclaiming the promise of public education is about fulfilling our collective obligation to ensure that every person has the opportunity to succeed and live a productive life. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Before we move on to a board discussion and comments, and obviously a roll call.
Thanks, Julie.
I appreciate the Vice Mayor presenting this proclamation, and also more particularly the very, very touching and, how shall I say it, realistic remembrance of what it was. I too can remember those times, and I appreciated the personal story. But I will read the proclamation from our mayor, and it's wonderful. Whereas the month of May and the year of 2014 represents the 60th anniversary of the landmark Supreme Court decision of Brown versus the Board of Ed, Topeka, Kansas, and whereas the Brown decision paved the way to help our nation to improve equality and opportunity, opening the door of education to all students and enhancing civil rights laws, and whereas public schools are the backbone of our democracy, providing young people with the tools they need to maintain our nation's precious values of freedom, civility, and equality, and whereas by equipping young Americans with both practical skills and broader intellectual abilities, schools give them hope for a productive future, and whereas educational leaders and municipalities across the United States recognize the achievements of Cincinnati Public Schools and look to Cincinnati as a model for public schools to emulate, and whereas the city of Cincinnati has joined forces with our public schools, its teachers, parents, and students to ensure equality of education and opportunity for all our children. Now, therefore, I, John Cranley, Mayor of the City of Cincinnati, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2014 as Brown versus the Board of Education Month. Thank you so much for that proclamation, and thank you for the delivery, Vice Mayor. We appreciate it. Comments and issues and questions, board members? Mr. Manera.
I think it's appropriate to thank everybody that spoke. I personally appreciate the city of Cincinnati. My background is not black, and my background is not white. If we were to color it, I'm speckled, white and brown, but I am Hispanic. And 60 years since this amazing achievement, we finally got a Hispanic male elected to be part of this board. And I am very proud of this city for that. But there's many ways to go, like many of you have said. It's not a matter of waving a monochrome flag. It's a matter of looking at our students who are number one in what we are doing here and looking at them as a whole and thinking about integration not as, you know, we'll take this school or we'll take that neighborhood, but thinking about every single student that we work with and figuring out how do we make that work. It's a matter of not just focusing on the separation of colors, but also of equality and equity and achievement, and coming together and stepping out of our box and thinking, what will it take to bring in the brown, the yellow, the purple, the black, and the white together and see them as one. I made a commitment when I joined this board, if I was to be elected and throughout the campaign, not to look at myself and speak on the I, but speak of the we. Speak on the togetherness, on why we do what we do, and the opportunity to be part of a whole. Not to be just one person trying to do it all by himself. So I appreciate the city of Cincinnati for moving ahead and electing someone that can reflect what this district has, which is a certain percentage of Hispanic students that need a voice, and come along together with my African American brothers and sisters and my Caucasian brothers and sisters, and being able to sit at the table together and look ahead at the future of our students and look at the future of our city, and see that together we will be able to achieve many things. That one nation under God, because as a pastor, when I do things with our students, when we do things with our students, we definitely like to say one nation under God. And I believe that one nation under God here in Cincinnati together can achieve many things. So I thank you for all your leadership. Cincinnati and parents and teachers, I thank you for the support you give this board. And I look forward to all the great things we'll be able to do for all of our students.
Thank you, Mr. Manera. Ms. Bates?
It was total coincidence that we voted on our vision and mission and strategic goals, but maybe it was more than coincidence, and maybe it was just meant to be that we did that on the day that we're also honoring this historic decision. So I and my fellow board members will agree, I'm sure, that this was something that we did very, very deliberately. We went through 2 facilitators and came up with this vision, mission, and strategic goals very seriously. And I would say that you should challenge us to carry this out as we should to honor our children and to honor this historic decision.
Thank you, Ms. Dansby.
Oh, no, you can go first. I'll go.
Good. Yeah, just not to take too much more time, but to echo what my fellow board members have had to say here. And Melanie, you're exactly right. The way we've aligned our vision and purpose and mission along with this historic case tonight. But for me, there's still so much work to be done. And until we are equitably distributing all of our resources to every child in every school, every day, we'll still have a struggle. So while the board is here to set policy and to do that, it really takes everyone in our community, our leaders in that, to make sure that we move this 60 years, further down the line from where we are now. So it's not over. It's great to commemorate this, but there's still a tremendous amount of work to be done. And maybe not so much with race. Of course, there are issues with race, but equitable distribution of resources to every single child in every school.
Thank you. Mrs. Hoffman.
Yeah, I will echo what everyone said and thank so many people for being here tonight. I do not remember 1954, but I will say, though, that I was a teacher. For 7 years, I taught in both Mississippi and Washington, D.C., and don't need to remember 1954 to know that we have a lot of work to do. In those 7 years, I never taught a white child. And so, the basis of this decision, I think that we all remember, is that the separate is inherently unequal. And we still have separate schools here in CPS, in a lot of our schools. And so we need to start talking about what are we doing as a district that to not just follow the law, but to make sure that these principles are guiding us in the policies we set and in the decisions we make. Because I think about how you would teach this case in many of our schools. I taught it when I was a teacher, and with my second graders, the first question they would say is, well, if it's illegal, why don't we have any white kids in our class? And, you can talk about how you can change laws and still not change hearts and minds. You can talk about, public policy that led to white flight and pockets of, racial isolation in neighborhoods. But the bottom line is we still have a lot of work to do to live up to what this decision really was supposed to mean. And, us as CPS, we talk about, it was on every single slide that went up with our valedictorians and salutatorians. They all said in the corner, prepared for life. And I think a lot about, I've been listening to lots of stories around this case, and there was one recently that I sent to the board about, they profiled a family in Tuscaloosa, but I think it could have been in many of our cities, including here, and they interviewed a high school sophomore, and she is in a racially isolated school, and she talked about how she and her friends talk about how they wish they had white friends, that when they see the way she said it was so wonderfully innocent. She said, when we see white kids out, like at the mall and stuff, they look really nice and like they'd be fun to hang out with. And I think we can't actually say we're preparing kids for life if we know we have schools where kids never interact with anyone different than them. Because in life, you have to be able to know and understand and value people from all different backgrounds. And that, I just think that has to be part of our goals and our mission here in CPS. And I mean, these are hard conversations to have. They're uncomfortable conversations to have a lot. I want to thank Vanessa and ACDC for starting some of these conversations with the American Promise screenings a couple weeks ago now. But even if we look at that, it was a lot of talking to ourselves. I mean, at the second screening, Alex and I were the only white people in the room. And so if we, as a community, think the conversation needs to happen, and I think it's amazing that the Vice Mayor is here with a proclamation about this. We have to do more than proclamations and resolutions. We have to push ourselves as a community to have this be a priority. And not just that it's better for our African American kids, but it's better for all of our children. And that the future of our city really depends on us getting this right, getting it right now. Thanks.
Thank you. Vice President Nelms?
Yeah, I want to say, Pastor Lynch, I was 1 year old in '54, but I remember traveling to Pittsburgh, Texas, where I was born, to attend my uncle's funeral who had drowned. And my father and my aunts, they got out the car, and I went into this cafe, not knowing that they had went to the back. And so as I entered the cafe, I didn't see none of my family, but there was an older white gentleman that looked at me and said, "Boy, what are you doing in here?" And so I ran out and ran back to the car and asked my uncle, "Well, where did my father go?" And he said that they had to go to the back. I remember being in Billings, Montana, my first year in professional baseball, when 3.5 months before I saw another person of color other than those that was on my team. And I remember playing shortstop, and the ball was going over toward the left field line in the stands, and I went over to get the catch. However, the ball ended up in the stands, but someone in the stands called me the N-word. I remember being in Perth, Australia, and not feeling the sting of racism, but I saw it perpetuated on the local Aborigine. And I want to say that part of the problem, I did my doctorate dissertation in the separation of church and state, so you're absolutely right, it's a trick. But part of the problem is that we still have work to do, and I got this today on the internet. It's called a dream deferred. And the Brown versus Board of Education confirms something that sits at the heart of America's dream, and that all kids deserve a chance at success, and a quality education is the best tool we have to give them that chance. Martin Luther King Jr. called the Brown ruling a great beacon, light of hope for freedom and justice. The anniversary of this case is a reminder of that hope. But it also reminds us that there's still work to be done. Today, public schools are more segregated than they have been in any other point over the past 40 years, and students of color are still trapped in the poorest performing schools, which everyone has alluded to. 60 years after the Brown decision, 4 out of 5 African-American fourth graders read below grade level, and they are twice as likely as their white peers to drop out of high school. This deferred, delayed response to an issue and a condition that we know the reason for is evidenced by the disruptions between lived experiences and the promise of equity. If the American dream is attainable, where does it leave our kids? We still have work to do. As I sit on this board and I look at what's the problem, we're more educated, we're so-called more advanced, but here's my perspective. First of all, it's a spiritual condition. It really is. Because there's no other logical way to explain why people wouldn't want what they want for themselves for other individuals, especially kids. And I've known for some time that racism is a learned behavior. It's a matter of a person's attitude, beliefs, and their heart. We all need to check our attitudes, we all need to check our beliefs, and we all need to check our heart. But even as we sit here tonight, there's still a lot of work to do. Thank you for your comments, and everybody here needs to take inventory of what their role is and what their purpose is in this issue moving forward. And the first thing we probably need to do is get honest with ourselves, get honest with one another, and get honest about the fact that it's still an issue. But when our kids are affected, it becomes an even greater issue. Thank you.
I don't want to belabor the point too much, and again, I'm one of the younger board members, so I don't have as much perspective on the history, but I think that my colleagues have spoke very well about what it is we must do, and I'm confident that this board is attempting to move our district in the right direction, again, with our vision and mission and strategic goals. There's also smaller subcommittees that we have that are just burgeoning and working on tackling the issue of equity and making sure that, as Ms. Stansby said, we have equitable resources for every student in every school every day. And I think that's the message we need to take from this. So I look forward to carrying out that work, and I appreciate our distinguished speakers tonight for sharing their thoughts and history, and again, the proclamation, which is very, how should I say, it's a landmark. So we appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Coons. Just a last couple of comments. It's the history teacher in me that can't avoid it. The reality for me is that if you make a historical analogy, very frankly, the high point of the Confederacy was Pickett's Charge, and the folks that repelled Pickett's Charge repelled it at bloody angle. The Great Gettysburg Battle, where the armies met. As far as I'm concerned, and everybody has said it, public education is the civil rights issue of this generation and probably the next two generations. And we are at bloody angle from a standpoint of this is exactly where caring, thoughtful, passionate people need to be sitting, because public education will overcome, because we will not succumb to the attacks or the efforts to destroy public education. And we're here to make sure that not only is our vision and mission ready and able, but that we are ready for you, as we've all been mentioning, to be challenged. Demand nothing less from us. We are here to serve, and we will make a difference, and we appreciate those people in the classrooms, those people in the hallways, those parents, everyone that is committed to public education, and we will do the right thing for the right reason. We'll do it for our kids and the future of our city, and this has been a great night for all of us, and we appreciate you all are able to say a whole bunch of stuff that we can't necessarily, so it was great to have you here. And we will now do what we need to do. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Bates.
Aye.
Mrs. Copeland Dansby.
Aye.
Mrs. Hoffman. Mrs. Hoffman.
Aye.
Mr. Coons.
Aye.
Mr. Manera.
Aye.
Mr. Nelms.
Aye.
President Bolton.
Aye. Again, thank you to everyone. Mrs. Bates, would you please present the resolution for board consideration?
Yes, thank you. I have a resolution accepting the amounts and rates as determined by the Budget Commission and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the county auditor. I present this resolution as printed for adoption.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion, questions for our treasurer?
Mrs. Witt, would you call the roll?
Mrs. Bates.
Aye.
Mrs. Copeland Dansby.
Aye.
Mrs. Hoffman.
Aye.
Mr. Coons.
Aye.
Mr. Manera.
Aye.
Mr. Nelms.
Aye.
President Bolton.
Aye. And I believe, Mrs. Hoffman, do you have a resolution to present on behalf
Yes.
of the board?
Yes, I'd like to present a resolution executing the Second Amendment to Real Estate Conveyance Agreement by and between the Board of Education of the Cincinnati City School District and the Village of Silverton, and I present it as written.
Is there a second?
Second.
Vice President Nelms. Any questions, comments, things that need to be discussed? Roll call.
Mrs. Bates.
Aye.
Mrs. Copeland Dansby.
Aye.
Mrs. Hoffman.
Aye.
Mr. Coons.
Aye.
Mr. Manera.
Aye.
Mr. Nelms.
Aye.
President Bolton.
Aye. Superintendent Ronan, do you have a report for the board tonight?
Yes, I do, President Bolton. This is just a really wonderful time of year. In addition to the graduation season featuring the wonderful salutatorians and valedictorians, it's also a time when we really honor outstanding teachers. And you know, last week you met Mary Beth Clayton, who won the Teacher of the Year award, actually the Lawrence C. Hawkins Award. Well, on Friday, I was privileged to go to the Hamilton County Education Foundation recognition breakfast. And they provided an awards to really the 24 stellar teachers here in Hamilton County. And one of our teachers, Keith Maddox, a Spanish teacher at Walnut Hills High School, was honored. I was hoping to have his picture, but we shall see. Magically, his picture might appear. So I want to congratulate Keith, and thanks to all the great teachers who work in Cincinnati Public Schools. Now, this is also the time we're developing our budgets, and right now we have a budget survey out there. And also tomorrow evening, our Student Services Department is hosting a listening and learning session on funding for students with disabilities. So we're inviting parents, board members, interested community members to come and share your ideas and priorities, which will help the Student Services Department with their budget. And also, that is tomorrow night from 6 to 8 here at the Marison Academy. Also, I'd like to remind our board members that this year's capstone project is about to begin this week. It's students in grades 4 through 8. It's really a culminating project because, you know, we hear so much about teaching to the test and youngsters don't get to actually participate in rigorous academic activities. Well, this is a wonderful opportunity for our youngsters. And the 6th through 8th grade projects will be judged by professionals at the GE Learning Center. And that is on Wednesday out at GE Aviation. And then the 6th grade showcase will be on Thursday at Aiken High School. And we've done a press release on that. So I'm hoping board members can make one of those events because it really is, it's wonderful to get to hear the youngsters talk about their project, answer the questions, defend what they've done. It's just it's just 2 wonderful days. So we're hoping you can attend. Thank you.
I know I'm scheduled to be at both, and I'll tell you, it's fun and it's inspiring, and it again is that commitment to Common Core and rigorous curriculum and teamwork. It's just a great experience, both at GE and at Aiken as well. So please, if you're able to join, you don't have to be there the whole time, just even the front side of it so you can see the students' work is great, or the tail end of the hours so that you can see the awards ceremony. It's great. Thank you for that report. Do I have a motion to approve the revised recommendations of the superintendent?
So moved.
Ms. Dansby, Copeland Dansby, and a second?
I'll second.
Second, Bates, all right. Any questions or comments regarding the superintendent's recommendations? Hearing and seeing none, roll call, please.
Mrs. Bates.
Aye.
Mrs. Copeland Dansby.
Aye.
Mrs. Hoffman.
Aye.
Mr. Coons.
Aye.
Mr. Manera.
Aye.
Mr. Nelms.
Aye.
President Bolton.
Aye. Do I have a motion to approve the revised report of the treasurer?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Coons. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Copeland Dansby. Thank you. Any questions or comments or issues to be raised that the treasurer needs to clarify?
Just a couple questions.
Sure, Mrs. Hoffman.
Okay, on page 1, number 5 of the original, I think it's still the 5, the Head Start federal. Can you just explain the second part there? The amount of $292,810 to provide half and full day educational socialization services. Is that expanded, or is that expanded preschool services, or is that just renewing a current number?
That is not expanded services.
Okay.
Although I'm sitting here reading it. No, that is right now from the Head Start grant, we get approximately 800 seats. So 796 seats. No, that has not been expanded. But I do have good news in that Gwen Robinson from CAA, I ran into her at an event last week, and she did tell me that the renewal of our grant is progressing through the system. She's not allowed to say that we've been awarded it, but once they call and start asking questions about your grant, you know you're in the system, you know you're under consideration.
Okay,
so it
that's good.
is moving through. Currently, we are funded with the previous Head Start grant through next October. But we anticipate this summer we'll find out about our next 5-year grant. But no, the current one covers 796 students.
Okay.
So we're not getting any additional dollars.
Clarification. One other clarification, and that was on the revised report we got. I saw the revised number 11, the agreement with activities beyond the classroom. And we had a presentation a couple of weeks ago now, which was wonderful, and I think we all know they do really important, good work in our schools. But I was just thinking, in light of the conversation we've been having about equity and making sure we have equitable distribution of funds and all, if we could maybe have as a follow-up to this or some way to look into the allocations of funds. I know Vice President Nelms had shared some of that information with us, and it looks like it's a pretty standard amount that's based on size of school. And I'm wondering if that is the most equitable way to distribute those funds, or if there's another way we can be distributing that.
Well, Mr. Miles has been working with the athletics and extracurriculars for the last year or two trying to work through this. So, Mr. Miles.
And we met earlier this week or last week with Board President Bolton and Board Vice President Mr. Nelms, and we discussed the options and
Member Dansby.
Board Member Copeland Dansby. And what we discussed is how can we better serve our students.
Right.
So we are bringing a task force together to see how we can move forward with that. We've also put some things, we've included your goals into the contract to make sure that anything that ABC is doing is following the goals of our Board of Education. And our treasurer was big on that because we also want to make sure that we are following where that money is going and how we are spending that money to make sure we are providing the most opportunities we can for all of our students, elementary as well as high school students.
It's fantastic. Thank you.
So
great. We look forward to hearing more about that.
Certainly arrange that follow-up as the task force starts to meet. Yes. Copeland Dansby.
Mr. Miles didn't mention this, but we have, as a part of that task force, decided to give quarterly updates specifically to the board so that all of these questions can get answered proactively and so that we're all aware of exactly where the funding and that is going.
That's great. Thank you.
I thought that would be very helpful.
Definitely.
And I really do appreciate being able to incorporate our mission and vision and strategic goals into the contract that's being put forth for the new year.
Great. Thank you. That's all my questions. That's wonderful.
Any other comments, questions for the treasurer's revised report? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Mrs. Bates.
Aye.
Mrs. Copeland Dansby. Mrs. Hoffman.
Aye.
Mr. Coons.
Aye.
Mr. Manera.
Aye.
Mr. Nelms.
Aye.
President Bolton.
Aye. Any inquiries or updates? I think the superintendent provided us with a number of them. Mrs. Hoffman?
This is one I know we've discussed kind of in passing among the board. I know Vice President Nelms has brought this up before as well. Just wondering if maybe we just put it as something that we look into is around our kudos. I think our kudos are wonderful, but I'm also wondering if we can have more kudos for our staff members in our buildings. I would have loved to have heard tonight, I know it would have taken a while, but from all those salutatorians and valedictorians, I would have loved to have known who in the buildings over their pre-K to 12 education helped them get to the point where they were at. And I think we call out people when they win awards, but it's the small daily acts that lead to transformation in our district. And so I would love to hear more from our parents and our kids, some kudos along those lines.
Well, even to respond to that, there was some brief conversation with President Sellers and Mr. Black about including more kudos for the site-based teachers that do the work throughout the district. So we're working on that process. So thank you for that. But I would like to add that one of the things that I think we need to be more mindful of is also to follow our board operating protocols. And I do believe that our protocols directly align with our mission, our vision, and our goals. So I would like for us to just at least quarterly or as often as possible review these to make sure that we are aligning ourselves with our protocol.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Inquiries or updates? Any assignments? Seeing and hearing none, having no other business come before the board, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.
We're done.
That's pretty good.